The Book of Genesis, chapters 1 through 5. Chapter 1. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was void and without form, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters." And God made the expanse, and divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered in one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the plant yielding seed, and the tree yielding fruit, each after its kind." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and the plant yielding seed, and the tree yielding fruit, each after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, and God set them in the expanse of heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters be filled with living creatures, and let the expanse of heaven be filled with birds that fly above the earth." And God created great sea creatures, and every living creature that moves in the water, after their kind, and every winged bird after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth be filled with living creatures after their kind, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth after their kind." And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after their kind, and livestock after their kind, and creeping things after their kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that moves upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, having dominion over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant bearing seed which is on the face of the earth, and every tree bearing fruit yielding seed. It shall be food for you. And to every beast of the earth, and every bird of the air, and to everything that lives, that moves upon the earth, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the things that filled them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and on the seventh day he rested. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because he had rested from all his work on that day. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. Now every shrub of the field had yet to be on the earth, and every plant of the field had yet to grow, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was no one to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, which watered the whole surface of the ground. And the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden in the east, in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed, and out of the ground the Lord God made every tree that is pleasing to the eye, and good for food to grow. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from there it parted and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is Pishon, which travels around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, bdellium, and onyx, and the gold of that land is good. And the name of the second river is Gihon, which travels around the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, which travels toward the east of Ashur. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and to keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree in the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat from it, for in the day that you eat from it you shall surely die. And the Lord God said, It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make for him a helper. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field, and every bird of the air, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called them, that became their name. And the man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam no suitable helper was found. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. And God took one of his ribs and closed up his side with flesh. And from the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man, he made a woman, and brought her to the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall cling to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And the man and his wife, they were both naked, and they were not ashamed. Chapter 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Has God said, You shall not eat from any tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, except for the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden. God has said, You shall not eat it, neither shall you touch it, or you will die. And the serpent said to the woman, You will surely not die, for God knows that when you eat of the fruit, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was delightful to the eyes, and that it was desirable for gaining wisdom, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave it to her husband, and he ate. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves coverings. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, Where are you? And Adam said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid myself. And God said, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat? And the man said, The woman that you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate. And the Lord God said to the woman, What is this thing that you have done? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I ate. And the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the livestock, and more than every beast of the field. Upon your belly you shall go, and of the dust you shall eat, all the days of your life. And I will place hostility between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And to the woman he said, I will greatly increase your labor in bearing children. In pain shall you give birth to children, and your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. And to Adam he said, Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat from it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring to you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow shall you eat your bread, until you return to the ground. For from the ground you have been taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. And the Lord God made garments of skin and clothed both Adam and his wife. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now he might reach out his hand and take from the tree of life, eat, and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken. So he drove the man out, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned in every direction to guard the way to the tree of life. Chapter 4. And Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again gave birth to his brother Abel. Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a worker of the ground. And in the course of time it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. And Abel, he brought the firstborns of his flock and their best portions. And the Lord looked with favor upon Abel and his offering, but to Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do what is right, will you not be lifted up? And if you do not do what is right, sin lies at the door. It desires to own you, so you must rule over it. Cain talked with his brother Abel, and it came to pass that when they were in the field, Cain moved against his brother and killed him. And the Lord said to Cain, Where is your brother Abel? And Cain said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And God said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries up to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will not yield to your strength. You will be a drifter with no home upon the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. You have now driven me from the ground, and I will be hidden from your face. I will be a drifter with no home upon the earth, and any man who finds me shall kill me. And the Lord said to him, Whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, so that no man who found him would kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and lived in the land of Nod, which was east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch. And Cain built a city and named the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And to Enoch was born Irad, and to Irad was born Mehujael, and to Mehujael was born Methusael, and to Methusael was born Lamech. And Lamech had 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and raise livestock. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of those who play the harp and the flute. And Zillah gave birth to Tubal-Cain, a maker of tools in copper and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. Wives of Lamech, hear what I say. For I have killed a man for my wounding, and a young man for my pain. If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, then Lamech 77. And Adam knew his wife again, and she gave birth to a son, and called him Seth. For God, she said, has given me another son to take the place of Abel, who was killed by Cain. And to Seth was born a son, and he called him Enos. That was when men began to call upon the name of the Lord. Chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. On the day that God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. Male and female he created them, and blessed them. And on the day that they were created, he called their name Adam. And when Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, and after his own image, and called him Seth. And Adam lived for 800 years after he had Seth, and had other sons and daughters. And Adam lived for a total of 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and became the father of Enos. And Seth lived for 807 years after he had Enos, and had other sons and daughters. And Seth lived for a total of 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years, and became the father of Canaan. And Enos lived for 815 years after he had Canaan, and had other sons and daughters. And Enos lived for a total of 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years, and became the father of Mahalalel. And Canaan lived for 840 years after he had Mahalalel, and had other sons and daughters. And Canaan lived for a total of 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and became the father of Jared. And Mahalalel lived for 830 years after he had Jared, and had other sons and daughters. And Mahalalel lived for a total of 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and became the father of Enoch. And Jared lived for 800 years after he had Enoch, and had other sons and daughters. And Jared lived for a total of 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years, and became the father of Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God for 300 years after he had Methuselah, and had other sons and daughters. And Enoch lived for a total of 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more, because God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years, and became the father of Lamech. And Methuselah lived for 782 years after he had Lamech, and had other sons and daughters. And Methuselah lived for a total of 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years, and became the father of a son. And he called his son Noah, saying, This child will comfort us in our labor, and in the aching of our hands, which comes from the ground, which the Lord has cursed. And Lamech lived for 595 years after he had Noah, and had other sons and daughters. And Lamech lived for a total of 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah was the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth.